When buying a home, there's three important numbers that I really care about. What's my monthly payment? What's my cash to close? How much is the home that I'm buying worth? This is Nathan. I'm a mortgage lender and a real estate investor. A question that we get a lot of times is, how do we actually know how much the home is worth? If you have a really skilled listing agent or real estate agent, they're gonna tell you these pro tips where you just list the house right under market value, so that way you get a lot of attention and you get what's called a bidding war. So you get a lot of people emotionally invested and then they actually bid the house up. So how do you actually find the correct value of the home? That's actually where the appraisal report comes into play. So an appraiser is actually gonna go out to the property, triple check the value and make sure the home that you're buying is actually worth that amount. The appraisal report, which is what's generated from the appraiser, is almost to make sure that you're not getting catfished. So generally, if you're getting a mortgage, the lender is going to order an independent third-party appraiser. Notice the keyword, independent third party, right? Because the last thing that you guys want is to have an appraiser that's really good friends with the real estate agent that's selling the home, because what they're going to do is obviously not tell you the truth. So independent third-party appraiser is going to allow you to actually get the true market value for the home. Let's jump into an actual appraisal report, because I think it's really important to see what it actually looks like, so that way when you guys see it, you actually have some context, okay? So here's the first page of the Uniform Residential Appraisal Report, which is essentially what most appraisers use to submit to the lender. The first thing I look for is in the contract section, we want to make sure the contract price is accurate, and if you got any seller concessions or seller credits, we want to make sure that's accurate as well. Right here, we can actually see an example where we had a buyer who actually got $23,000 in seller credits that we could apply towards their closing costs, interest rate buy down, and all that good stuff. That's getting a little more advanced of what this video is about. The next section I look at is one unit housing trends, or if you're buying a condo, it would say condo housing trends or multifamily. So the appraiser will actually comment on where he or she sees the value of a home and what are the trends for that local area. So the first thing we look at is the property that you're buying increasing, stable, or declining in value, right? I think it's important to know that. The next section we can see, which is demand and supply, where generally if you're having properties getting on the market and then going pending or off market in less than 30 days, you're generally going to have what's called a shortage. Imbalance is usually around 3 months or so to get a home on market and then into pending status. Right after that, you're going to see the improvement section. All right. So I remember when I bought my first home, I wanted more guidance. This is why I actually make these videos. Flashback to the very first home that I purchased. I put 3% down and I waited a few days to hear back, and the real estate agent called me up and said, "Hey, Nathan, we got the offer accepted." Of course, I was super excited. The downside right after that is I got a ton of alerts from all the different parties involved, the lender, the real estate agent, the escrow and title company, with all these different tasks. It was definitely very overwhelming. However, one of the tasks was to get homeowners insurance. And I was like, I don't even know where to get the homeowners insurance. Do I talk to the car insurance person that I have, or who recommends that? Ended up getting connected to an insurance agent through the lender. And that's where I had this conversation with the insurance agent. They were asking all these tough questions about what type of foundation is there? What type of crawl space is there? And I told the insurance agent, I was like, I'm a first-time home buyer. I have no idea. Can you help me? And they're like, not helpful at all. What I ended up learning after the fact, being in the mortgage industry, is on the appraisal report, you actually have this section filled out by the appraiser. So you can actually get the appraisal report and send it to your insurance agent and actually save you a ton of headache of trying to figure out what type of crawl space do you have, what type of foundation do you have, slab, crawl, etc. It's all on the report. So take that pro tip, it'll save you a ton of headache. On the following page, you'll see a table with your future home address, as well as other home addresses. You might be a little confused on what those are. So that's what's essentially called a comparable sales, where the appraiser finds properties that are like your future home and then compares it to your home and makes adjustments from there, all right? So I'll give you an easy example. If we go down a little bit further, we can see what's called value adjustments. On this table, you'll see value adjustments where the appraiser will try to give their most accurate adjustments for the other homes by increasing or decreasing the value. So I'll give you an easy example. So gross living area, fancy word for square footage for the home. So if you have a home that's 1,000 square foot, your future home, and then you have home 1, which is 1,000 square foot, and then you have home 2, which is also 1,000, and then home 3, which is 1,100 square feet. What the appraiser is going to do is add a value adjustment, decreasing the value of home 3 to make it more like your future home. because home 3 has an extra 100 square feet. And essentially what they're gonna do is apply that to all the other 20 plus adjustment points on the report. After all of those adjustments, the appraiser uses their fancy magic with their software tool, spits out a mathematical number, and you can find that in the reconciliation section with the actual value, which you can see right over here. As time goes on, maybe you do some renovations and plan on refinancing the mortgage in the future and getting rid of mortgage insurance. That's also another video that we've made. You'll actually see another date there if you order another appraisal report, maybe in the future, right? So just be mindful of the date that you see on the actual appraisal report. That's actually when the appraiser went out there. So that's the end of the appraisal report video. I hope you found value out of it. I'm rooting for you. This is Nathan, signing out.